Finally, after all of these years, I was able to see the production of Little Shop of Horrors, now playing off-Broadway at the West Side Theater. I have been dying to see this. I love Little Shop of Horrors, but I've never seen a live stage professional production of the show. I don't actually think I've ever seen a stage production of Little Shop of Horrors ever, which is odd. But I have seen the movie, and I love the music. I mean, Howard Ashman is one of my personal idols, and I love his work with Alan Menken, especially. If those names sound familiar, they are basically responsible for the Disney Renaissance that happened in like the 80s and 90s. I just think that they've written such an incredible show, and I loved seeing it in this off-Broadway venue. They were able to do a lot with the theming, like in the lobby and everything. It was a really nice marriage of the theater space to the show. I mean, sometimes productions get lucky and the theater that they're put in carries the same essence or theming as the show itself, but I thought they did a good job adding elements. There were all of these vines coming in and out of the windows, and some blood drips down the door frames, and little Audrey II-esque killer plants kind of sprinkled throughout the venue. So I thought that was really unique and really cool. I wish I got some more photos of that, but I wasn't thinking about it at the time. But it just made for a really enjoyable night at the theater. And I was particularly excited to see Sherry Renee Scott. She and Nicholas Christopher are both leaving on February 23rd. So if you happen to see this video now, maybe you're considering if you want to see them in these roles. If you saw my review of Gypsy, you know that I really regretted not seeing Joy Woods in the role of Audrey back when she was in the show. So I was not making that mistake again. Sherry Renee Scott is a performer that I really wanted to see live, and this was a perfect opportunity to do so. When the show first began, I was a little bit nervous because it kind of felt like everyone was doing a different version of Little Shop of Horrors, and like the energies weren't quite matching up until a certain point. It was like they were all kind of like warming up into the show, which was unfortunate. But once they got there, it was a really fun time, and there were some really great performances to highlight. I think Sherry Renee Scott, her strengths were more in the vulnerable Audrey scenes and songs. So I really enjoyed her Somewhere That's Green. And then Nicholas Christopher played Seymour. I really liked the sensitivity that he brought to the character. I felt his desperation to want to impress Mr. Mushnick, played by Reg Rogers, who did a really nice job in this role as well. But yeah, I felt that desperation and that wanting to be liked by him and then have that father-son relationship. Teddy Udane plays Oren, the dentist, and he creeped me out in the best possible way. At first I wasn't like sure how I was going to enjoy his performance in this role, but he kind of won me over with his facial expressions. They were really disturbing. They need to be studied. I really liked his musical number, Dentist. That was actually a highlight of the show for me. There were some special and unique elements that I haven't seen before. There were some unique choices to this revival that I'm not sure if they were there from when this revival first started in 2019. But there were some things that I didn't necessarily agree with because I felt that some of the choices that were made sort of got in the way of the pacing of the story, and instead we would like sit in a moment a little bit too long, and I wanted them to move on. Also, Audrey II, I was overall kind of disappointed with the design of the puppet, especially the largest version of Audrey II that we get. I sort of felt that one lacked a little bit of character, and also it was lacking the color green. That's what I noticed. I was like wishing that the puppet would be a little greener. Maybe they decided to go with the paler shade because of the lighting that they had planned for it. The puppet kind of looked a little sad. However, I did really like the Feed Me puppet. I believe that's puppet number 3. That was really cool. And the puppeteer inside was doing a really excellent job matching up with the actor's voice who was singing for Audrey. And I also really liked the puppet used for You Never Know. I always love this puppet. It's the handheld one that Seymour controls. I love seeing the puppet dancing around to the beat of the song. It was like, I'm like, Audrey II, you're adorable. And also a killing machine. While we're on this number, I think it's an appropriate time to shout out Daria Pilar-Redis, Tiffany Renee Thompson, and Morgan Ashley Bryant, who all played Crystal, Ronette, and Chiffon. They were great. Here is a view from my seat. It really helps sell the puppet illusion from where I was sitting, although I have to say I do kind of wish that I was sitting closer. The theater is so small. The seating is raked, so it's like you're looking down at the action. I think if the stage was higher, I would enjoy the seating more, but that's just not the case. And I did miss a little tiny bit of choreography. It was not an obstructed view seat. There was a moment where there was a character doing choreography, but it ended up being obstructed by another set piece, and it was fine. The same choreography is mirrored on the other side of the stage by other actors, so it's not like you're like missing anything major. Also, I do want to give a little bit of a warning. If you're buying tickets online or if you go to the box office, you may not see this, or they may not tell you about it, but the lightboard operator is positioned house right behind a section of seats, but it's completely unobstructed. So if you are sitting house right and you are behind that point, I was sitting in row M. I think if you're any row behind that, you're going to have some of the lights from the monitors that the lightboard operator is using sort of polluting your view of the stage. Like the actual equipment isn't going to block the stage, but the lights will probably be in the corner of your eye. It would annoy me, to be honest, if I was sitting in those seats. I might advise sitting farther up, at least before row M where I was sitting. However, if you are like a student of theater and maybe you want to be a stage manager, a lightboard operator, a lighting designer, it might actually be a really cool vantage point to see the show from, because you kind of get to watch the lightboard operator work during the show. So, you know, there's a plus side to that. So should you see Little Shop of Horrors before it closes? I think it makes for a really fun night out at the theater. For example, there was a group of women sitting next to me. They were there for someone's birthday. They were having a really fun time with the show, so that was really nice to see. Actually, the woman whose birthday it was, she bought the extra seat next to me for her stuff, so that was a delightful surprise. I didn't have anyone sitting next to me, and I was on the aisle, so it ended up being a really nice situation. Yes, it was a very fun night out at the theater. I would not advise paying more than $100. To be completely honest, I don't necessarily think the show is worth that amount. I do know that some of the seats that were closer to the stage were around like $200 when I checked online. But when I went to the box office, they were asking if I wanted those tickets for like $99. I ended up paying $89 for my seat in row M. But yeah, something to be aware. I don't think it's worth paying more than $100. However, if you are, if you know you want to see a celebrity in the role and you know that you need to plan it out accordingly, then obviously go ahead, because you're planning your experience around this. But that was just from my experience of watching the show. I wouldn't necessarily value a ticket at one of those prices. Those are my thoughts on Little Shop of Horrors, now playing off-Broadway at the West Side Theater. I would love to read your thoughts in the comment section below. I would also appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to check out some of my other reviews and theater-related content on my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to stay off your phones while at the theater.